There you go.
All right. Welcome everyone to our final HVAC meeting of the year. We will open it up with Spencer and Dori for the land acknowledgement.
Thanks. Dori, would you like to lead us in? Do you have a profound moment for us?
Just a thought, final one for this year from me. So I will lead with a question and engage some curiosity with people. As you look at 2022, how will you actively support, make visible Kalapuyan people, since we're here on the land of the Kalapuya?
That's a great question to get started with, and something we can all think about as we move forward. The Portland metro area, including Beaverton, rests on traditional village sites of the Kalapuya, Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Molalla, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River and its tributaries. We recognize the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous and Native American families today. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being stewards and protectors of these lands with their ancestors for thousands upon thousands of years. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think that always sets a tone that we can create a good foundation for our thoughts and discussions from. Thank you. Joy, we have a few minutes to get approved. Could you guide us through that process? Because I know this is not a small matter during this.
Certainly. You bet. Let me say at the beginning that my internet is unstable. So if you lose me, I'll be back. So as I understand, we have 3 months worth of minutes: September, October, and November. So has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at the September minutes that Paolo sent a few days ago? If you have not, please raise your hand. I don't see any hands. So, okay, no hands. So for the September minutes, are there any corrections to the September minutes? Hearing none, they stand approved as sent. October minutes. Did anyone not receive the October minutes? Please raise your hand. I don't see any hands. Okay. Were there any corrections to the October minutes? Seeing none, they stand approved as sent. And then November were the last minutes from our last meeting. Did everyone receive the November minutes as sent?
Yes.
Okay, if not, raise your hand. I don't see any hands. Or waving or. All right, were there any corrections to the November minutes? Spencer, go ahead.
Spencer, I think you're going to say what I was going to say. Go ahead.
The minutes are waiting for the slide deck from the
committee?
From the art project committee.
Okay.
So before they're complete, we need to attach the slide deck. Can someone just shoot that to Paolo, please?
Lisa, do you have those? I think, weren't you doing the slideshow last week, or was someone else doing the slides for you?
Yeah, I sent the slides to Paolo. They were on Google.
Okay. Paolo, did you get those?
Oh, got it. I remember this. I believe that in the last email that I sent you all, I included a link for it because it was that's right. It was a Google Drive. Did nobody see that link? Then is it a possibility?
I think
That
I
we-
saw it for some reason. I feel
I
like I
saw
did.
it. I
It
did.
was okay. It was in there. Yeah.
Spencer, did-
Dori?
Dory,
I just have a question. Is it okay in, based on what government documentation is required for meetings, is it okay to have links, or do you actually just need a printed PDF? Because we can just print that and attach it to the minutes.
Paolo?
I think that's fine. So I think, can we approve the minutes as they are and then attach the printed PDF to it afterwards, and that's what I'll put online?
So is there a motion to add the slide deck as a PDF and then approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion. I mean, the thing is, we all saw it. I mean,
Yeah, we did, and it was awesome.
if
It was
anything,
nicely
we're
done.
more familiar with the slide deck than the minutes, since we spent that time going through it.
Yeah, twice. I mean, I really got that slide deck down. It's awesome. All those in favor?
Who seconded, Joy?
Oh, does anyone second?
Lisa's seconding it.
Okay, Lisa. It's been moved and seconded to accept last month's minutes as sent by Paolo with the slide deck included as a PDF. All those in favor, raise your hand.
I'm very in favor.
Opposed? Any opposed? No opposed. Okay, motion carried.
Thanks so much.
Yay, we're up to date then. I'm
Woo.
thrilled.
So we don't have anybody here for public comments, so I'll go ahead and just move along to the liaison updates. Amy Browning.
Yeah. So last month's MYAB meeting was mainly a subcommittee work time session. So we completed a lot of planning for certain projects. I'm part of the community involvement subcommittee. So we're already spearheading a youth summit that we're planning to have in early May. So this will hopefully happen. Permitting, we're allowed to have an in-person space at ideally the library. And we're hoping to be able to collaborate with the Beaverton School District and be able to bus students from all 6 main high schools to that space. And then we'll hold various workshops like social justice, activism, panels, discussions, stuff like that, that will benefit youth and also allow them to learn about various careers, stuff like that. So that's kind of in the initial planning stages, and we're really excited about that. And we hope that we'll be able to have it in person. So that's mainly what I have the most information on. The other subcommittees are just kind of doing their own smaller projects that aren't necessarily in person. So we'll at least be able to put out something. Yeah, any questions about that? Or anything like non-MYAB related?
Amy, if you wouldn't mind, when that comes more to fruition, there's dates and everything planned out. Please share that with me so I could go ahead and include it in the program newsletter for the
Yes,
outreach.
of course. Awesome. We're finalizing the date now, but it should be done by this month's meeting.
Cool.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amy, for keeping us updated and for making sure that we understand the impact that youth is making in the community.
Alan Jules.
Evening, everybody. Not much to report from the PD. Obviously, the holiday season, some of us don't work as much as others do, but we're from the community resources side, we're kind of headlong into our holiday giving tree. So we're using the opportunity to support, I think, 75 kids this year. Generally, they come from the Salvation Army Center that's at 149th and Farmington. Union Gospel Mission, and then other families that have been nominated by our officers. So they come across them during, some sort of a police interaction, and our officers recognize the need, and so they get nominated for the giving tree, and then our officers will pick up gifts and donate to that project. It starts with the PD, but it goes out citywide, so all the city departments have an opportunity to join us in that effort. So that's kind of a big deal. We had a really generous donation just before Thanksgiving. And I apologize if I get it wrong. 2 organizations that are supported by the kind of Hindu organizations within the city, SEWA, SEWA, and I won't even attempt to say the name. It's HSSUS. Again, it's a Hindu society. They put on a food drive for our food pantry that we have in community resources, and effectively they stocked our goods and our staples for the next 2 years. So it was a pretty huge donation, and we had so much food that was donated that we were able to take the overage to the Family Justice Center and donate to the FJC. And I don't know if it's specifically FJC or if it's DVRC, the Domestic Violence Resource Center, but we took our excess and they had an opportunity to use it as well. So kudos to these Hindu groups that partnered with us. It was a pretty neat experience. So outside of that, just trying to internally, we're just wrapping up the year and getting ready for our budgeting process to start in January, which this is the first year that I'll be in charge of a lot of the budgeting stuff. And so I'm trying to get my head wrapped around that. So any questions for me?
Luck with the budget.
Lisa?
Yeah, so what does the budgeting process look like? Is that like supervised by the council, like city, or is it just your own system?
It's a many stepped process, and that's why ultimately we start our portions of it in January in the new year. The total city budget won't be approved until late May, early June. So this is our internal budgeting process where each division goes through its its needs and wants from the last year and what we spent and what we didn't spend and those kinds of things, and presents its big asks. We're always wanting more things and more stuff and more people, and so we present those, and then we go through an internal process where me as a captain and our senior command staff get together and discuss what the priorities are. What we already know, from the city and from the finance director about what we have to spend and what we can reasonably do. And then we present our budget to the council as part of the overall city budget. So we're doing our process, and then it actually has to go through a public budgeting committee as well. So that committee actually has a lot more clout before it gets to the council. So hopefully by the time it gets to council, it's not a rubber stamp, but it's a much more refined piece of work than how we approach it.
Is the public budgeting committee like a police specific one or like the city one?
It's
the general?
citywide.
Okay.
It's the citywide. And I think if you go to the city page, I think they're listed on the commissions, just like you guys are. So I don't know much about it. Again, this is my first time kind of being the point person on it. So I've got a lot to learn. I've been through it as a lieutenant and asked for numerous things over the years. I like to spend money. So I've always got big eyes when it comes to budget time, but I'm appropriately shut down quite often. So that's what I know.
It sounds like you have big projects.
Yeah.
And big ambitions for our community.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately, I'll say this: when it comes to the equipment that modern policing requires, it's not cheap, and the expectations of the community should be that we have good equipment, and it costs a lot of money, unfortunately. So this year, I think, well, I can't speak for the department, but I know we'd like bodies in different places, not just police officers, but administrative positions. My records division can use some records techs, and it's going to be a tough sell. It's going to be hard coming out of the COVID years to sell full-time positions. So,
Captain, do you have any knowledge about how the citywide citizen committee is put together?
I don't. I just know that we have to submit everything through that budgeting committee before it goes to city council. So
would this be a committee that reviews all departments or just the police?
No, it reviews everybody. To my knowledge, I shouldn't say that, Spencer. Right? To my knowledge, they review everybody, you know, based on a very specific set of parameters. So,
got it. Thank you.
Captain,
Yes,
have you had difficulty recruiting for those positions? Not just the budgeting, but recruiting. I know lots of industries are having difficulty getting enough employees or staffing. Is that a problem within the police department also?
what I would say is that we're still getting what we want, but we're having to work a lot harder for it. I can tell you that when I got hired at the city of Beaverton 20 years ago, I was sat in a room on test day with 300 other people and competed for 4 slots, 300 people competing for 4 slots. Now, if we get on test day, if we get 35 people in the room, we're really happy. And they might be competing for 6 slots. So it's more, it sounds bad. It's not needle in a haystack, but it feels more like that. We're driving a lot harder to fill the positions. There's not as much interest as there once was in police work, and that's not been a specifically recent trend. That's probably the last 5 years. So but we're still hiring people that we feel are qualified for entry-level positions, and so we have to dig a little deeper to get to them. So, anything else?
I just want to say I just did some brief Googling in the budget committees. It looks like their last minutes were from May of 2021 when they approved last year's budget. So they may mostly meet during that time, it looks like.
Yeah, I would guess that. And again, I'm not certain what the appointment process is. I think the city council determines who gets to participate. So, thanks, guys.
Captain.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here to represent the department through this year. We appreciate your contribution.
So Councilor Hasan texted me that she is going to have to be a little bit late today. She might be dropping around 7:10. She's in some other meetings, but she will be here. So for news, liaison news this month, December 4th through January 6th, there's going to be the tree lighting displays. It's going to be, the displays are open nightly from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. Locations include the Candy Cane Lane over on the Grove City Park, as well as the Round, which is right next to City Hall, where that big blue structure is. Any additional information or opportunities to get involved will be at the beavertonoregon.gov/winterlights, as well as other social media. So if you follow the city Facebook. The city's main website, beavertonoregon.gov, they are having a big redesign. So we have some surveys that are being put out. You could just go to beavertonoregon.gov. You'll see on the main window there, you could click on it for the website redesign. So if y'all have any feedback for any of that, please go there. Yep, there's just a really long link here that I don't need to regurgitate. But yeah, the new website's expected to launch, well, just as in 2022. So not sure when that actually means, but sometime next year. Lastly, just a reminder that the city is open sort of it's really just the first floor and some limited services. So this is a combination of both remote and the front desk will be open from a certain period. And yeah, so if y'all have any questions about any of the services that you can access at the city that are on the first floor, so things like the passport window, you can make some payments there as well, I believe. Those are open. Otherwise, the regular channels are through the online services. Dori?
Just a question, Paolo. Is there any new information on parking in the downtown area now that the Arts Center is close to opening?
Ooh, I do not know. That's a really good question, though. I could ask, and I don't know if others are curious about this too. I could email everybody, or Dori, I'll just message you directly.
I'm curious also, Paolo, because I believe Alexis was saying something about there was going to be a parking fee charged at some point, and it would be nice to kind of have an update on what that looks like too.
Okay.
If I recall, that was going to be in the new structure only.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I was wondering. Is it the structure that's next to City Hall that's being built, or are we saying a fee also? I think Dori was talking about downtown parking. So, but I'm just gonna ask what's the parking situation in general, because I also want to know. Kathy.
Yeah, if you're going to talk about how to access downtown, I hope that a shuttle and public transportation is also put out there.
Are there any other questions? Otherwise, I so rudely skipped one of the pieces on the agenda. Human Rights Day is coming up, and Kathy, thank you for reminding us. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. You may feel it's too late for us to do something about it, but it's only 9 days away on the 10th. Might be enough time. I asked the library if there could be an exhibit put up for Human Rights Day, and it is too late for them. For this year, they said we could put something online if we want. But I asked if we could work with them for Human Rights Day and perhaps some other dates that are of particular importance in human rights. For example, International Women's Day, Martin Luther King Jr. commemorations, Cesar Chavez, those kinds of things. And the library has never worked with outside people for the displays, but they are going to talk about the possibility of doing it. And I asked that they please reserve the next Human Rights Day to work with us. And that's all.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Kathy, can I just add to that, because we actually did participate in that. A commissioner, fellow commissioner, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her last name, Marilyn. She would regularly work with the library on for Indigenous People Day, Human Rights Day. There were a variety of different celebrations and commemorations where she would work with the library, and they had an incredible response because they would put up books specific about that, and there would be people would check those out more frequently simply because they were on display and they were getting the notice that it needed. So I would really be, and that kind of petered out with around COVID. And so I'm really glad that that you brought that up. Tanya?
It's just what Dori put into the chat. There's a change in leadership at the library, and so that's probably why there's no memory of us working with them.
Mhm.
So
I
Yeah, Kath.
I'm guessing that Dab might like to work with that, perhaps with us and the library, because they're so much more knowledgeable about particular dates and holidays that are important to the ethnic groups in town. But I will follow up, okay?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Those library displays, I think you mentioned, I can't remember if you mentioned this, Stephanie, sorry, but they also had books related to whatever topic or that you have there along with the displays.
Mhm.
So it was kind of fun too. I think like people were able to make requests of what books they wanted or suggestions, and the library would go ahead and would get those specific books into their library.
There was a really great response. So Kathy, I'm so glad that you've kind of brought this back and brought this to the attention of both the library as well as to the commission, because I just remember it being incredibly successful and beneficial to the community, that the circulation for books on those topics increased during that time because of the displays. So it absolutely had a measurable impact. All right. Did we have any more updates? Paolo? No. And Kathy, I hope I didn't cut you off. Was there more that you needed to share?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Thank you for your encouragement, Stephanie.
Dori?
Thank you, Stephanie. I just wanted to share a project that's underway with the development department. So the development department is working on a strategy called the Beaverton Downtown Equity Strategy. And there will be meetings on, let me make sure I get the right date, December 8th and 15th. And the more people that participate, the better. What the development department is doing, they're working on strategies, and they're working with Coalition of Communities of Color, Vans, Being a Star, the new managers of the Marianne, and let me not forget anybody, Apano and Adelante Mujeres. And these two community meetings will be an opportunity to hear from the community what would create a city, and in particular a downtown, where people feel a strong sense of belonging. And then the second meeting on the 15th will focus on how to reduce displacement.
Dori, I'm sorry,
Yes.
you dropped off for me before the words downtown.
Absolutely. So I'll say it again, maybe. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
The meeting on the 8th will focus on envisioning a downtown that is centering the belonging of everyone. The meeting on the 15th will focus on eliminating or reducing displacement, which is a really important concept. There's about $100 million that the city will be investing in the downtown area over the next 10 years. So it would be important to have folks like you who are engaged and involved at those meetings.
Where do you have a link that you could put in the box?
Yes, I can put the registration link in for you. Thanks, everyone. And it's on Zoom, so you don't even have to leave your home.
Thanks for saying that, Dori.
What time will it be?
This is the business development group, like the Chamber of Commerce?
No, it is the Department of Development for the city.
Oh.
And it's being hosted by Vans, Adelante Mujeres, Being a Star, Apano, and Coalitions of Communities of Color.
Hannah, did you have something?
I was just interrupting as usual. Just wondering what time it's going to be.
Oh, you keep going. I'll find those because I know those flyers are in here somewhere.
I'll drop it in with the link to register at the
Perfect.
time.
Thank you, Dori.
Right.
Thank you for that. That's some important information. And I know this this commission will use that wisely. And you're getting that in the chat, Paolo? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're getting that information. That's $100 million. We can make an impact. That's impressive. That the city's committing those kinds of resources. Spencer, I know you're feverishly typing. So when you when you have a moment. Oh, Dori. Oh, you're okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't forgetting something. Spencer, can you tell us a little bit about your meeting discussing the subcommittee that has recently been formed?
Yep. We met on the 24th of November, Tanya, Joy, and I. Incidentally, we are looking for more folks. I know that based on her remarks and a response to her from Jenny Haruyama, that Kathy is interested in this project. So Kathy, if you'd like to join our subcommittee, you're more than welcome.
I need to consider what else is happening for me in January. Okay.
We have established the initial, our initial goal, which is to begin to strategize with city leadership how best to present to the city government the idea of a community-based, citizen-based review group, status of which, or powers of which, or makeup of which is yet to be determined. It's definitely a work in the initial stages of being in progress. We've divided up, the three of us have divided up city leadership amongst us for initial contacts and gentle, quiet conversation about the idea. We're aware that the city manager's office is interested in seeing this project get started in some form. Jenny is also interested in getting our commission back on the agenda. And I know that Joy has a couple of thoughts about that, but we'd have the opportunity to read last year's study or report recommendations into the minutes, into the record of the council. So that would be a big step forward for that. It'd be great if we could also review our accomplishments for the past year, which are important, as well as any thoughts that we might have developed so far about the review panel project. Anyway, that's kind of where we're at. Minutes are available. Did they come out? Paolo, where's Paolo? Paolo, oh, there you are. I can't remember.
I posted the video recording that you shared with me on the website.
I think I thought I had sent you the written up minutes, but no.
You had sent me the summary of the art meeting. That's what I got from you, Tanya. I got that one twice, so I'm wondering if maybe
I attached the wrong thing, possibly. Something.
But I could get that up on the HROC website minutes as well. But the recording is there.
Okay. But I can send out the minutes. I'll send the minutes to you and you can send them to everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Tanya. Anyway, that's, we've made a beginning.
Right.
We had no, we did post notice of the meeting. There were no members of the public who attended. So we breezed right through, and we'll have another meeting probably in a couple weeks.
I believe Captain Juilfs has a comment.
Good.
Just a quick question, Paula. I followed the link. It said that you'd posted the subcommittee meeting on the main HRAC page, and I couldn't find it. I'm probably blind, but if you can help point me in the right direction.
Sure, yeah, and it would be the video recording, not the actual minutes for that, because I don't have those minutes.
Right. I couldn't find it on the.
Okay, I'll look
page.
into it. And if it needs to land somewhere else more obvious, or maybe it's just finicky or something, I'll make sure it gets up there.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, I went back into the city minutes, and our proposals and everything are in the record, and the mayor signed off on those minutes. So our proposals are on record, unless it's supposed to show up in a different way. But back in January 2021, they're in there.
Thanks.
Okay, so it sounds like we have the initial considerations are being formed, and I know that will take shape into January as new commissioners come in and be up for consideration at that point. But thank you all for dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's and making sure that those are in place. I appreciate that. I know that can feel tedious and laborious, but I appreciate what that means and the transparency that we're working to achieve here. I really appreciate that. I'm guessing, Paolo, that we should move forward, and then when Councilor Hasan is able to join us, then we can kind of pop back over to her and allow her to contribute. That would be my thought on how we would move forward. Does that work?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to hear from the art team. So please, art team, take it away.
Tanya.
Please, Abdi, Dori, please. Tanya.
So we met with Chief and Captain, who we found out is called AJ. We didn't know that before. And I don't know.
The chief is called AJ?
Well, I don't know. The chief said it. I
Chief
don't know.
Grosjean?
No, I'm AJ.
Oh, okay.
Apologize.
Captain AJ. Okay.
All right.
Like, how did that happen? Okay, thank you for clearing that up. I'll be quiet now, Tanya.
Sure, yeah, inside story there. And I thought it was a very productive meeting, and someone just threw the minutes up there for everybody to see. But what I think was significant that came out of this meeting is when all five of us, which was Dori, myself, Kathy, Chief, and Captain, we sat down and discussed what we saw, and it, for me, and I think for the rest of us on the commission, what came out is just how much the community focuses on, well, my interpretation of having the police come and take care of their arguments with their neighbors more than is really necessary, was kind of where I landed after we all met. That when all eyes were on this, I'm sorry, I'm losing track of where I wanted to go. What really came up is when people were trying to answer the third question on that we were asking them. They really struggled with what can they do? What can our community do? What can we as individuals can we do to help our community? And people struggled with that. And yet what we saw from the first three questions was that people really are starving for being connected and coming together and knowing each other. Yet they have the officers have a high volume of calls where officers are being called out to deal with neighbor to neighbor conflict. And that was just interesting. That was something that arose. And also, I think it's really important that everybody knows that somewhat frequently, we only have 6 officers overnight protecting 100,000 people because of staffing. And Captain Allen can talk about that more directly, but so that's what I got. Kathy or Dori, do you want to throw something in on that?
I'd like to add just a little bit more that we all had the same view of what a safe community looks like. The captain and the chief could be my next door neighbors, and we have the same concerns. They had additional concerns that we don't share because their co-workers go out in dangerous situations. And so they had the additional concern that on the job, their co-workers are okay. It was interesting also that each of us added a little bit about community safety that had to do with our particular circumstances. Someone who'd been a victim, someone entered her home, broke in and entered. And so home invasion was a big deal. I am especially connected to young children and have worked with them for years. So the safety of children in their yards and on the sidewalks were a concern. Dori, being a woman of color, is concerned about her grown kids. Every morning wonders, well, are they still safe? The chief especially said homeless women, because they are especially victimized, and people at night, being safe at night, walking. And Alan talked about keeping us wanting to have doors unlocked sometimes without people intruding or taking things. And we just really felt good about that, about sharing. It was a very good sharing time, eye-opening. And as they talked about the ways that their time gets used up, getting cats out of trees and a limb off somebody's fence, we really talked about who else in the city could take care of that. And so we had 2 action items out of this. Well, first of all, we all considered this a pilot, and we wanted to see other groups of people being surveyed, homeless people, etc., just other groups. And the second thing was, what if, when this is all the way done, we do this data walk with other entities in the city who might help problem solve how to get cats out of the trees without the police. and how to get neighbors to solve their arguments without the police getting called. I'm not sure what this would look like, but if we presented it to other departments in the city, I'm sure people could come up with some solutions. And that's all.
Dori?
I'll just add follow-ups because I had a few. My task was to follow up with Carly Adams at the Mediation Center and share our conversation, these notes with her to see how we can get more people to access the Mediation and Dialogue Center. And I think, Paul, I think you already sent out the notice for the January mediation training. And that's available to anyone who lives in the city. So that's also an option for you all if you're thinking about it. But I know that was one of our follow-ups. And I would just say one thing that we didn't mention, and perhaps, and I'm going to ask this, Captain Juilfs, are you okay with us calling you AJ?
Absolutely.
Okay. AJ, you talked a little bit, and it was a very powerful, thoughtful conversation because we met the day after you had the Evolve experience that Chief Gershon had mentioned at our last meeting. Would you like to share just a little bit about what your experience was with the Evolve project and what it is?
I can. It's kind of unrelated to the art project, so I don't want to steal time from art project before we move on. It was related to our conversation, but kind of a separate issue.
I'd like to hear.
I'd like to hear too.
Okay, I just want to be respectful of time. So if you guys haven't heard of it, it's the Red Door Project. They present for lack of a better term, a theatrical performance of what they call the Evolve experience. And it's a set of 4 monologues that unfortunately for us, we weren't able to see live. Typically they've done them live, but during COVID, they were a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting. So we saw them online. And each monologue is maybe 8 minutes long. It's not super lengthy. And then there's conversation that occurs after each monologue. And they represent, I would say, a variety of viewpoints or perspectives. One is told from the perspective of an African-American woman who is stopped by a police officer for speeding or something like that. And she talks about the interaction. The police officer is a very negative police officer. He uses words that I wouldn't use. And the kind of the twist on it is that the African-American woman is a police officer, and the tone changes when the officer who stopped her finds that out. And but there's still some very racist overtones in what's being shared. The second one, I'm trying to remember in order what they were. One is told from the viewpoint of a cop who's really worn out and tired of the community, for lack of a better term, dumping all of society's ills on that officer and them not being able to solve those problems. And just the perspective that they have of the kind of the everyday grind that can occur in police work. The third one, I don't recall exactly what it was. And the fourth one was told by I believe is a young African-American man who repeatedly gets stopped in like a New York City subway environment and how he's treated in those environments. And what I took away from it was, and I'll be frank, I'll toot our own horn. I think Beaverton does a pretty good job of how we engage community members on a regular basis. And some of the racist comments and ways that the cops behaved in these monologues are things that if I saw those from any of our officers, I would immediately pull that officer off the street, and we'd be having a conversation about what their job looks like going forward with our department. So they were, some of them were pretty gross examples, but some of them were a little bit more subdued. One of the things that the Red Door experience or the Evolve experience talks about is they ask a series of kind of poll questions as you go through this to try to generate conversation and discussion and get you thinking about different things. And one of the really, I thought, interesting poll questions was about what do we want to see going forward into the new year. I can't remember how they worded the question, but one of the options was we'd like to see the quality of the conversation improve, and like 89% of us marked that that were in the session, and that was something that I shared with Dori and Kathy and Tanya, is that ultimately, whether you agree with what I am or who I am or how I do my job, I want our conversation to be positive, to sit down and wrestle with things that are difficult to wrestle with, and bring our own experiences into them. And I think that was what was fun about the conversation with just the five of us, is I think we had an opportunity to kind of see that a little bit in each other. And whether I walked away changed from Evolve, or whether I walked away changed from just our conversation about the art data walk, I appreciated the fact that we could sit down in a room and have coffee level conversations about difficult topics. And that's really where me in the point I am in my career, I won't say I represent the department, but these are my opinions and feelings, but I want people to understand what it is that I do and how I try to go about my job, while I try to understand where they're coming from and their perspective on what it is I'm doing. So that's, I hope that's a long-winded explanation, Dori, but I hope that tells you a little bit about what the Evolve experience is. The whole department is going to have the opportunity to go through it in the next several months. We're going to have 3 more sessions offered between now and probably June of next year. So everybody's going to have an opportunity to go through it if they'd like to. We're not going to force people to go through it, but pretty unique experience.
Communication truly is transforming. Thank you for sharing that, Captain. Mercy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, AJ, for that lengthy explanation. And I have a couple of questions, but I don't think we have time for it right now. But you mentioned something like coffee dialogue. I like to make an appointment. And maybe we can start making appointment with other individuals. How can we create that? Because it sounds really good, because all my questions cannot be answered yet, and I really need to talk to someone, like a person.
No, I completely understand. And Tanya's already one-upped you on that one. She and I have had coffee recently, and I haven't responded back to her, but we're going to plan on having coffee again soon. If you want to, I'll put my my work email address in the chat, and by all means, please reach out. I can't guarantee it'll be next week or the week after, or
no,
but I will. I'd love to sit down. I like coffee in an individual setting, just because it helps me stay focused on each person's perspective. I like group discussion too. I can talk all day, but I'm happy to have coffee with anybody. Coffee is just my entry point. It's an easy thing. If you'd rather have a Coca-Cola, I'll sit down and have a Coke with you. So.
Thank you. And I'm hoping that when we have the discussion, it can be taken back to the team to have more discussion among you guys. That would be my goal. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mercy. I hope you do continue those discussions because they're really important, and continue to share those, 'cause we need those voices. I realize Councilor Hasan has joined us. I'm so glad that you are here. Could you give us an update on the city?
Sure. Thank you all so much. Happy Wednesday. My deepest apologies. The mayor was having a convening on some childcare stuff that we're trying to work on to provide more childcare for our community. And so I really wanted to be there for that, and it just kept going. So I just kept wanting to leave, but also wanting to be there. The city has been in a bit of a pause in meetings. We have a holiday on, last week it was a holiday week, and this week is also a holiday week. So not a ton that I can think of off the top of my head to report on. I believe you guys are on an agenda coming soon to us. And I don't know anything except that you are on an agenda coming soon to us. Have I filled you guys in on ARPA allocations? Would it help if I filled you in on ARPA allocations? Yes, I'm seeing a nod. Okay, Lisa, I got a thumbs up. So we did get our first sort of set of allocations for ARPA funding decided. I'll pull up the agenda bill where it actually is so that you can kind of see where some of the things landed. Kind of a quick recap. A lot of money went toward affordable housing, or what we call SDC waivers, or system development charges. So we're waiving some charges to make sure we can continue to build affordable housing. We had about 2.9-ish million to go to business recovery. So a lot of our small businesses are really struggling right now. And then there was about 1 million-ish around community engagement and community feedback. I think Jenny, as our city manager, will be the administrative head to decide where some of that money goes. I was able to ask the council to consider $75,000 to be set aside for some conversation around what a multicultural center looks like. It's something that has been talked about for many years within the city, but has never made it very far. I don't know that this is going to do very much. I joked and said, maybe by the time I die, we could do something like this. I'm still kind of young, but would just like to put the seeds in to start thinking about what it looks like to better serve our communities of color. I don't even know that that's the answer, but I'd like for us to be having more honest conversations about how we serve our communities of color specifically. So I'll drop that in the chat. I will say that we had a budget committee meeting in, gosh, the time, it just all sort of meshes, but we had a budget committee meeting in which, to be very honest with you all, the finance director chatted quite a bit about kind of the dire straits that we're in terms of money. And it felt very much kind of like a gloom and doom around what money we will have in the future. So I don't know, the ARPA funding conversation, there were 2 tranches or 2 sections. We talked about section 1, we allocated section 1. I have a feeling that section 2 will not necessarily disappear, but there will be very minimal funding because a lot of our reserves and balances are off. I've yet to hear more on that, but that is some kind of the impression of what I got. I'll pause to see if you have any questions because I am trying to remember if anything crazy has happened. I know our next 3 meetings are very heavy with conversations and discussion. Yeah, I'll pause, and I see Kathy's hand raised, so Kathy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
2 questions. Is at next week's council meeting, I believe you're discussing our recommendations. And Jenny had also said that perhaps, is that still on? Okay.
I believe yes. I have not
Yes.
heard otherwise.
Okay. And my second question has to do with behavior health. Was there discussion about putting some of that money to behavior solutions?
There was not in this conversation. I'd have to look deeper at what the allocations look like. I do think that stuff that is more behavior or mental health needs to come a little more from the county than the city. And I say that because if you look at the city's limits, as soon as you get to like 185th or 170th, like there's parts of the city that like some of us don't even live, like we think we live in the city limits, like we're not really in the city limits. So I'm not saying that I don't think that that's something that we should be thinking about, Kathy. So I'm gonna like take note of that and see what we can be doing. But I do think that the county really directs around a lot around public and mental health specifically. And I don't know, Tanya, do you have a response? It sounds like.
Yeah, mental health funds are always come down from feds through the through counties. That's just how it's always set up. And larger cities that have bigger tax bases and all of that will fund things, but typically, especially in the population in Washington County, it really comes from the county, not from a city.
Yeah. And I would urge you to look at the city limit map, because when we talk about a lot of like controversial things, like even banning fireworks, like it doesn't mean anything if you do it in the city limits, because I'm just going to drive over to 185th and like TV highway, right, and do what I want. So we need to be more thoughtful about like holistic solutions that help everybody. Any other questions I can answer? So excited to the portion that I was hearing. So I'd love to just keep hearing that, because that's so much better than what happens in city council.
I think Kathy kind of alluded to this a little bit, but yeah, HRAC is slated to be on the council agenda, and it's actually going to be on the 7th, which is next week. Joy, the chief, and Jenny will actually be speaking there. So thank you so much, Joy, for doing this on behalf of HRAC. And so the purpose of it really, it's my understanding, and we're having a planning meeting for this tomorrow too, so more to come. But the purpose of it really is to bring it in front of council again, and to actually read the 5 recommendations into public record, and get an update from the chief on some responses to some of those recommendations, as well as, and this next piece I'm a little bit kind of not as clear about, but kind of laying the groundwork for potential areas that what could this work look like in 2022. Ask if council has any questions. And also, one thing that I personally would like to get out of it is, what would y'all, if y'all were to point HRAC in a direction, you know, of what could be supportive towards this work, you know, what would that direction look like? What could that work look like? So more to come. I like those reactions to the council. More to come after our meeting tomorrow. But yeah, that's going to be next week on Tuesday. So please tune in.
I will, Paolo, you did remind me something. I don't know that I have an answer to your question, because I don't know what the work really is. Oh my God. Sorry. Oh my God.
She's been going crazy. That's why the camera's been off and the mic's off. Sorry.
But okay.
Wait,
Sorry.
okay, you give your update. I'll turn this off later.
Woo, okay. We did, despite the doom and gloom of the budget committee meeting, the city manager specifically requested $50,000 to look at police oversight specifically. And I don't want to say the word oversight, because I know that can sometimes be the word that doesn't make people feel good. And I apologize. I'm just going to open up the budget, because I know it's in here so that you can all hear it.
Nadia, say review.
Sorry, thank you, review. Where is it? There was specific money that the city manager requested to help us just kind of look under the hood of what's happening at the city level. And so that is something that that was approved in the budget. So there's work coming. I think, to be super honest with you all, the city manager is still getting her bearings around, you know, the work that needs to be done within the city. You have to remember that our administrative head was a mayor or a politician. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it had its own challenges, which is why we voted this new charter. And so as she continues to sort of figure out things that are going on, you know, how that things have been done and what needs to be relooked at and what needs to be reexamined, you know, all good things that need to be looked at. It's going to take some time. And so I think there is a desire to continue this conversation, but it's more like, what what is even the baseline of what's happening in the city, and then what does moving towards solutions really look like? Because it is important that we continue to use what's happening in Beaverton to inform our decisions, and not necessarily, you know, the landscape, because there is good stuff happening here too, and we need to make sure that we're balancing that perspective as we continue to have conversations. Does that help?
Based on what Paolo said and Councilor Hasan, what you said, it sounds as though that we need to decide tonight what Joy is going to talk about next Tuesday.
Is that?
I could jump in on that. It's quite short, actually.
What is short
They
mean?
had just asked if somebody could help.
What does short mean?
Do you know what the time amount that they're giving? Because they
We're
usually
gonna
do give
figure
it
that
today.
out tomorrow in tomorrow's meeting.
What's
But
tomorrow?
Tomorrow, just Joy, myself, and the chief and Jenny are meeting to discuss the plan for Tuesday. So that's why I don't have some of these answers yet. And more so I'm just like, hey, y'all tune in. But really, we wanted somebody to help lay the groundwork, kind of similar to how Joy, Dori, and Laurel did last year at the roundtable. And so my hope, but you know, in doing this, we all agreed we can't move on. We can't move on with this without having some representation from ATRAC as well. And so that's what we are hoping Joy can speak to tomorrow, of laying the context, the background of the inquiry sessions, maybe a little bit of that process. Yeah. So,
If I might,
yeah.
I thought it would be useful to read the recommendations into the record.
Right.
It hasn't happened yet.
Well, this is a good opportunity to hear from you all. What do you want? Like, I have what I think you could do, but I'd rather, this is your space and your opportunity. I don't know how many minutes you have, but it's important that you feel like if you think that you'd like to share something or make sure something is shared, to share that.
Thank you, Councilor Sun. I think it would be helpful, you know, if others shared their perspective, but since we have you here right now, and you have some opinions, I would really like to hear what those are, and then perhaps there can be some additional discussion from the other members of the commission a little bit later. But since we have this time and space with you right now, could we hear what you have to say?
Absolutely. I will add, Paolo, I don't know what time the meeting is tomorrow. I'm happy to try to join it if it's something that works for my work schedule. Before I tell you what I think, there was $50,000. It was an additional appropriation in materials and services for professional services to provide an independent review of police department policies, procedures, and accountability systems. So I do think that that's going to be the first step to helping us better look at what we need to do. I think when it comes to the presentation, you know, we get presented to a lot in council, and sometimes it's reading PowerPoint presentations, sometimes it's reading things into the record. I think what I have seen be the most successful, I think, is directing very specific questions to us to get our opinion on something. It's hard to know what is actually happening. It's like, I don't know what the presentation of Tuesday is intended to be. Is it an agenda bill? Is it just a presentation from you all? But I think what I've seen that typically gets decision-making happening is specific guiding questions that are focused on policy. And so a potential guiding question could be, what recommendations do you feel you can support? What recommendations do you have concerns around? Those very specific questions allow the council to talk really specifically around what you want to hear or what we need to be talking about. One thing that I think Jenny is trying to help us do, and I know that this isn't, so in the past, council has said, I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. We are not in that form of government. We are in a city manager form of government. Jenny decides, right? I could say, Jenny, I want you to do this, but in an administrative head, in a city manager form of government or a council manager form of government, She sets the operational tone for how money is spent and for what we do, and the council makes decisions specifically around policies. So if you want to look at a policy, we are the people that need to weigh in and have a conversation. If you want to look at a policy, for example, about SROs, which I would say is being handled kind of in a separate scenario with the consultant that's being hired through the district in the city, that's a policy question that we should be weighing in on. But a question around who gets pulled over, that's not really a policy question, right? So how do you take what you want us to discuss and do and focus it around policy questions so that we can inform Jenny and the chief around the work that we want to see? Does that make sense? I see heads nodding, so I think yes.
Thank you for taking the time to share that. I think having that perspective about how to be effective is really essential for our discussion about what it is that we want to bring forward and have discussed in terms of policy for council.
I would definitely make sure that you have specific outcomes and or something highlighted in terms of actionable next steps that you're expecting. I will say I don't know what Jenny has in mind. I haven't had a briefing with her about this to know, and I might not, but there should be a closing slide of like action items and or hopes and or expected outcomes so that it doesn't, so that you've closed that. I would also add that it's very important to ensure that there is time for council to discuss. I think one of the things that happened last time was, I want to say it was a roundtable, and the presentation portion maybe took more time and it didn't allow council to have the time to actually discuss the report. And so ensuring that there is some time for council to discuss if that's appropriate. Paolo, is it a work session, do you know? Or is it a presentation?
Right now I know it's a presentation,
Okay.
but there was an intention in there to have some time for y'all to talk as well.
Okay. Because that would also help guide, like, you know, I mean, because another question is like, what additional information do you need to move forward? Like, you know, to move forward on these recommendations, really helping us stay focused on what the recommendations are and what you want to see from us.
Right, and including that too is very specific feedback from the chief on those recommendations, or like updates on each of the individual recommendations. Recommendation 1, adopt 8 can't wait, and then it's like the yes or no, the reasons why for that. And so that hopefully will also feed into those possibilities of what the next steps are, right? And I think the intention too is just to, again, reintroduce it as the for this new year and paving some more work now in front of the full council, right? Because a lot has happened since that roundtable.
I did just check what it says in the agenda that I have access to, and it is being considered as a work session. A work session is typically an opportunity for the council to discuss a topic based on what you all bring to us. And so in theory, this work session could have the potential to have action items, not in the work session. That doesn't happen. It usually happens after the work session. But if it is a work session, then I would imagine that there is an opportunity for council to discuss what you're bringing to us. And so ensuring that whatever you decide to do, that you build time for us to have a discussion and for there to be some opportunity. Like, it's impossible to have back and forth. There's 7 of us, to let all of us go and say what we want to say might not allow you to speak back. You could find a way to insert yourself and say, I'd like to respond to that potentially, if you think it's appropriate. But a work session means that there's a presentation and that there's a discussion from council.
Do the presenters participate in that discussion?
I've never not had a work session where the presenters don't participate.
Yeah, so.
So we've just established a subcommittee to begin to examine ways in which to institute a community or citizen review panel for BPD, look at processes, procedures, action reports, and so on. So there's $50,000 that's going parallel with that. How do we make those two work together? go through Jenny's office and do it that way?
At the end of the day, Jenny's office will have to put together the agenda, right? Like, so she will lean on our council to inform her next step. And it could be green light, go, 50K, let's start looking at it. The question for you all is, what do you want to see us do? And then how do you present so accordingly? If it's moving on the HRAC recommendations, then I would focus on that presentation around reading around that. I think Joy, you mentioned reading it into the record. I'd be careful of, no offense, wasting minutes on a presentation. Like, you could certainly ask it or mention it or say it. I get a little nervous of losing time to actually get to the action part of the work session. Not saying don't do it, just maybe think about how much time you're going to take to present to us. Because so there's 7 of us. Imagine you gave us each a minute, which probably need more, but imagine that you did. You need to build about 7 minutes for each of us to speak on how we feel about everything. And then let's say you have 15 minutes. That doesn't leave a ton of time.
Thank you, Councilor Hasan, on giving us some tips on how to be most effective, because that's what we want to do on this commission, is be effective and make sure that our recommendations and our voice can be heard, and that we can be contributing to the community. So thank you for those recommendations.
Absolutely.
Did anyone else have any questions or thoughts for Councilor Hasan? Okay, thank you again for spending the time with us today. Just a moment, sorry. Paolo, are you there? Do we get video of the cuteness? I feel like we need an break.
Sure.
Before
She's
we
being a little
transition.
fussy. She's being a little fussy right now, but we're gonna try to take a look. There's a little baby in all her fussy glory.
You can send her to me. I can hold her for days.
So she's scowling at all of you right. Wow, she is scowling hard. Can you smile? Can you do a happy? No, you can scowl. That's fine. You can scowl if you want, baby girl. So there you go. That y'all get a scowl from the baby. She starting to gain some weight. She's starting to react. How long do the purple cries last, y'all? When does that go away?
18.
Did you say 18?
2 months. 2 months.
When they
2
move
months,
out.
Dr. Lisa speaks.
Very hopeful. 2 months. Oh, so cute.
Yeah, so I think she's just gassy or something. I don't know. Every day is different.
Colic.
They don't want you unless you're talking to someone else. Then they need you.
Well, thank you for sharing the joy of a new soul on the planet, Paolo. There's nothing that makes our world better than a fresh soul that has all this wonderful potential to contribute to us. So thank you for sharing.
My sleep is lacking, but my heart is full. And yeah, if we ever have in-person meetings again, I could use help holding babies. So I'm gonna bring the baby along.
I think you'll have a lot of volunteers. Well, as we're coming to an end to this year, I get to have this section of a wrap up, a little bit of a review of what we've accomplished and what we've done for this time. It's really been a true privilege and an honor to be the chair this year, and I feel like I've been very humbled in the position. It has not been it's not been an easy role, and I as much as I feel like it has been an honor, I've also felt like the gaps in my ability and competence. So thank you, Lisa. That was a good look. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I will let my I'll keep my insecurities to myself on this, but I want to thank all of you for allowing me to be in this position and for being such an amazing commission. It's been 4 years that I've been on this commission. I started out actually as an alternate the first year, and then became a commissioner, or part of the commission the following year. And so I've been on a total of 4 years, and it's been a amazing journey to watch, because when I first came on, it was a powerful commission, but the things and the topics and the time that we were dealing with were considerably different. And the reason that I wanted to be on the commission was because there had been such a change in the world at that point. That was 2016, and the world was a different place than I had understood it to be in as a parent of a biracial child, and my husband is an immigrant. I felt like I needed to make sure that I had a voice in the community, and that we were all contributing to the idea that we are innately valuable, and from that place is where we choose to exercise and see each other as human and express our human rights. That is why we have human rights, is because our value is not contrived from what we do or what we have or where we're from, but our value is contrived from our innate worth. And the commission has done amazing things from that space. I mean, I was mentioning when I came on, the library was being used as a resource with displays and presentations. At that time, the commission had just started by having a proclamation of Black and Brown Lives Matter. And this was a radical concept at the time. And council and the mayor's office had a lot of difficulty accepting that. And so to see that transition over 4 years, that was a controversial position that was brought back to us repeatedly, to have it kind of modified and maybe softened a little bit in our proclamation, to having this full circle moment where I am at a Juneteenth celebration hosted by the city, with the mayor speaking and Mercy coming forward and having some powerful witness to her experience in the community, and to have the city fully embracing that Black Lives Matter. And that was such a transformation in the years that I've been here. And on top of that, we've had amazing successes in working and collaborating with the police department in terms of, gaining insights onto their processes, and that happened last year. There was a lot of contribution from the Beaverton Police Department, and some incredibly difficult conversations about what community involvement should look like moving forward, and emotional contributions. And I expect those to continue. I expect those difficult conversations to continue as HRAC takes on its position of an independent body that has to share our thoughts and ideas with the community and integrate those into what is received, and be full contributors to that communication with the police. And so we've had that level of development. And then I think we've had a lot of success this year in moving our recommendations forward and keeping them at the forefront of consciousness for council. And, you know, I know that that's an ongoing process, but it isn't one that has fallen by the wayside. And I'm pleased by that, because I think that that's an easy thing to do. And I hope that as the commission moves forward, that we'll be considering that as well, that we'll be really thinking about how to carry forward a movement, because it isn't just in one year that we have our accomplishments. It has to be an ongoing effort, and that it's the culmination and that allows us to be truly powerful and effective. And that is my daughter, who loves to make appearances on camera, and she has been an intense part of this commission. In fact, she joined us at picnics in the park, another opportunity that HRAC had to interact with the community. And then this year with the arts project, I mean, what a powerful way to re-engage with the community. Because with COVID, I mean, we've all been so isolated and so separated. And really the outreach of this commission is to connect with the community and hear the voices of the community and make sure that all people's voices are heard. And I challenge you, as you're moving forward, as you consider healthcare initiatives and making statements in that respect, that will be something that comes forward in January. We've seen interest in that, and further interactions with other departments in the commission and in the city. I also feel particularly excited about our new engagement with human resources on, I'm going to get it wrong, Title VI. There we go. I got it right. Title VI. I think that that's a really powerful opportunity for HRAC to have a voice within the city, as well as to influence the direction that the community moves with Title VI, and being a body that creates accountability as well as transparency. So I'll discontinue my blathering, and I'd really love it if a few of you could chime in and share some of the points of successes that you have seen while you have been on the commission, for whatever duration you have been here. But I'd like to use the time just to pause and take note of what we have accomplished. We're always looking forward, and we're always looking at those next challenges, but take a moment to appreciate what has been done and what has been created, so that we can celebrate that and build on the success. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, I know I'd said this earlier this year, but you know, that Black and Brown Lives Matter proclamation that was eventually adopted by the city. And remember, I mean, we take it for granted how ubiquitously acceptable that is today. And 4 years ago, that was a controversial piece of a statement that was controversial from our commission. And not only did that influence the city and change the course of the city government and what they chose to accept, but the school district, I found out because I sat on the social studies curriculum development team, that they had used that proclamation to influence the statements that the school district made. So please never underestimate the power and the influence of this commission. It is influential, and the work that we are doing is powerful and carries forward. And while it's all been normalized today, and the things that we're doing today may feel uncomfortable or may make all of us shift in our seats a little bit, rest assured that when that work is in alignment, and when we are truly focused on the good of the community, that the best really comes from that. So please take a moment or two to share what your favorite contributions or your thoughts have been for this year. Are you overwhelmed by my blathering? Mercy, please save me.
I will try to. Thank you. I think when you talk about a lot of stuff that we've done here, just the fact that we can take our time every month to sit here and just go over how can we be an impact to this community, and know, to me, is a successful thing to do and a human thing to do. For me personally, this the commission really have helped me a lot. I was just a single mother running around school, 2 jobs, 2 kids, everything. My world was falling apart. Police were at my house all the time, and it wasn't easy. And I wish sometimes they will understand that I don't know who live here. I wonder what is it like to be in this house. I wonder what is something that is going on all the time, you know. But you know, when the hat is on to be a police, the hat is always on. And with everything else that was happening in my life, I just, like, you know what, there's a city hall here. I'm gonna go there and find out what's my right, you know. And I just went to the city hall, and that was my first time to meet Paolo and his boss. And I talked to them, and I'm falling apart. I think someone should be able to listen to me. I want to talk to the, how you call the lady, our Susan, city mayor? No, not city mayor, but anyway, the person that is above her, I went to see her. It didn't matter what it cost for me to see. I wanted to see her because I wanted to talk to someone. And I met Paolo and I talked to him. And I met his boss and we talked, and they started talking about all these commissions and stuff like that. And the benefit of being in these commissions is making your voices to be heard. And man, oh man, I've made my voice to be heard. I'm sorry. I try. And as human, we are not put on this earth just to wake up in the morning and just focus on ourselves. I think we need to focus on others. That's how I see my position. So this commission really, really helped me. It has educated me. It has opened my mind to a lot of stuff that is going on. I know my right now. I know who to talk to. I know where to go. Now I have AJ and the whole police department to go to again. It's like, and this time I hope we can have a common ground to have a conversation instead of fighting. So for me, it has really been helpful, and it has been a great journey. I really appreciate being on this commission and knowing all of you, your input. I really love to stay in touch with many of you, having coffee and stuff like that. But I think I'm not going to be too long because I don't know what I'm going to be saying, but we have accomplished a lot. Just staying here alone, you know. I work all day, we work all day, and we still come in and work all night. That alone is an accomplishment. So thank you all for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you, Mercy. I'm so grateful for the time that I've been able to serve with you. Were there any other people that wanted to contribute? I feel really, really wonderful about what we've accomplished this year, and as we're moving forward, I know that you'll do more powerful things, and that there will be 8 new voices on here that will have wonderful contributions to add. And I know that we need to move on to elections now, and I will move that over to Paolo.
1 second.
Oh, sure.
That was Susan Bolomeshi I went to see. I wanted to see Susan Bolomeshi. She needed to know what was going. She needed to know what was going on in some of us life, and I needed her to tell me what to do. So thank you for putting that name in there. Sometimes my brain is gone somewhere. Thank you.
Looks like Councilor Hasan.
Yeah, I obviously wanted to make sure if anyone else wanted to say anything. I don't know that I'll be with you all next year. Every year we do redo the boards and commission assignments. And so I'll just take a minute and say that the work that you all have taken on and the labor that you have taken on when it comes to talking about accountability and transparency and the things that you want to see, it isn't unseen, even though it feels unseen sometimes. And with everything that's happened, especially in this year and in this last year, I know that I've really appreciated this opportunity and these perspectives and the time to be here. I'm actually kind of sad because I feel like I missed last meeting and I feel like I missed I feel like I missed a piece of like the day that I wanted to have. And it makes me sad. And so I hope you know that, you know, to what everyone said, the work that you're saying and talking about it does truly matter. It is important when we introduce resolutions and proclamations and have these conversations, and it may not feel like it does, but it does. And I would also add that the engagement that you're doing civically is so important as we continue to build like what the future communities look like. You know, we have 3, potentially 4 seats opening up on council this next year. There's county stuff. We know there's a lot of stuff happening on our school boards as well, that make us wonder who we want representing us. And so I encourage you, as you get more engaged civically and talking about who are your leaders and who you want your leaders to be and who your leaders should be, or considering whether you want to be one of those leaders, because we do need more people to come forward and step up and say that they want to run for different things so that we can have a community that's representative of all of us. And so thank you so much for your work. I know that there is so much that you tried to do in your advocacy this year that we are very slowly at a turtle's pace moving on, and hope that we can move on for you. But that I very much see the work and the passion of the work that you have, and that it means something to me. And I know that it means something to others on the council and our staff, and most importantly, our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hasan. Paolo, I know we have to get to business here with election.
Sure,
There
sure.
are some
And also, I believe
powerful
it's
leaders that we're going to be, some guides that we will be putting in place here in just a moment.
Of course. Also, Councilor Hasan, I think it's every 2 years, unless that's changed recently. So I'm really hopeful that that's the case, because then we get to again next year. A few things I just want to leave y'all with that I want to make sure we don't forget, because it's really easy to get lost in the weeds of everything that y'all are doing. So yes, you presented the policing recommendations in January after several months, I think 7 or 8 months of the inquiry sessions. And then you attended regularly council meetings to speak in support of those recommendations during public comment periods, as well as having individual conversations with councilors in support of the report and others. You reviewed and conducted research in other communities and legal opinions on the trespass agreement. Let's not forget about that. That's huge. The trespass agreement as well. You established the HVAC Art and Data Project, calling community conversations about community safety, performed outreach at events, and compiled feedback into themes. So many of which, a lot of this work looks like it has the momentum to definitely continue to move forward. And some of the people that who applied to be on HVAC were folks who saw those meetings, who maybe y'all engaged with through some of those projects. So thank you. Y'all invested a lot into who's going to be stepping in these spaces next year. So, okay, elections up next. Before I even get onto the elections for the chair, vice chair, and recorder, I invite people to turn your cameras on. Everyone's got their cameras on. Unmute if you'd like, and join me, please, in giving a round of applause to Stephanie, Joy, and Spencer for all the great work they have done this year, and your leadership. It's been wonderful. Being a chair, vice chair, and recorder also means that outside of the regular HVAC, I'm a little sleepy, I'm sorry, regular HVAC meetings, I get to hang out with you and we get to talk more. And you know, the conversations that we have here are not light by any means. Y'all know that, right? And so it takes a lot. That 1 hour meeting that we have, planning a meeting, there's a lot that goes into that. So I just really want to thank you all so much. With that, I know we're a little bit behind, and I had planned maybe to space out some time to get clarification on what each of these officer positions are, and maybe to hear from the existing chairs right now on if, just feedback on what they see their role as. But maybe just to save time, I'm wondering if anybody has direct questions about any of these positions, and then from there we could go forward with the nominations for any of these positions. Okay, if there aren't any, then I'll go ahead and just let you know a little bit about what the process is going to look like. And so I started a poll, a Zoom poll that I'll launch here in a moment, and you'll have an option there. Well, okay, let's back up. First off, you can nominate somebody else for any of these positions or self-nominate yourself. You can accept or decline this nomination. And from there, I'll put your name under whatever that position is. And then we will all participate in a poll to vote on these folks. With that said, are there any questions about the process or the positions?
Could you just clarify, Paolo, who's staying for next year? Because that seems to be important for us to know.
Yeah. So I have the names of everyone leaving. Can I go in that direction instead? Okay, cool. Brendan Banks, Mercy Henderson, Stephanie, Dori, Jared, and Britt will not be here next year. Okay. So now I would like to call for any nominations for the chair position. So y'all can nominate somebody, you can nominate yourselves. I see Spencer.
I nominate Joy Stevens to the position of chair.
All right, thank you, Spencer. Joy, do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
Cool. Are there any other nominations for the chair position?
I would like to nominate Sabdi as
Did I hear
chair.
Sabdi?
Mhm.
Sabdi, do you accept this nomination?
Sorry. No. Or I decline, but thank you, Dori.
Fair enough, fair enough. Mercy, did I see a hand pop up there?
I like to what do you nominate Cameron?
Cameron Green. Cameron, do you accept nomination for the chair position? It's a big no.
Right.
All right, are there any final nominations before we move forward? So it looks like this is a non-contested vote. Can you join me in a congratulations to Joy? Joy, excited to work with you next year in this chair position. Let's go ahead and move on to nominations for vice chair.
Oh, I just have to say, I'm sorry. I'm emotional. It's my last commission, and after 4 years. I want to say congratulations to Joy, because I know how much time the chair position takes, and Joy's attention to detail and willingness to really commit that time is really wonderful. And so thank you, Joy, for being willing to do that. It's not an easy commitment to make.
I echo
That's
that.
sweet. I'm looking forward to helping to be the voice of all of us.
Thank you. And Stephanie, you were wonderful in this position too. Let's not.
Yes, you were, Stephanie. Yes.
I deeply appreciate that. Thank you. As I said, it was humbling. But so have we moved on to nominating for the vice chair role?
Yes, we have. Do we have
Oh,
any
great.
nominations for vice chair? I see Lisa's hand.
I'd like to nominate Tanya.
Okay. And Tanya, do you accept or decline?
Actually, I was going to put myself in for recorder, but thank you. That was really nice for them.
Okay, got it. I think, okay, I'm gonna go Stephanie and Kathy next. And then Dori, Stephanie, Kathy, Dori.
I want to nominate Sabdi. She has a really strong, powerful perspective that I think could be a great lead, and she understands the history of what we've been doing this year.
Sabdi.
Yes.
All right.
Oh,
Thank you.
What did I say? I think Kathy and then Dori next is what I said. Kathy.
yeah, I was going to nominate Spencer.
Okay. Spencer. Accept or decline?
Accept.
Okay. Dori, were you putting your hand down? Okay. Were there any more nominations? Okay. Cool. The way I have the poll set up is you could actually vote for all three at the same time. So right now, the folks that we have there are Sabdi and Spencer. Let's go ahead and get nominations for the recorder on the board, and then we could go ahead and put the poll up in just a moment. So nominations for recorder, and it looks like Spencer, you're raising your hand there.
I nominate Tanya.
Tanya, I'm going to assume you accept, being on what you said earlier. Cool. I wasn't looking up, but I think you're smart. You're smart. Got it. Any other nominations for recorder? Wow, it's pretty straightforward. So, wait, lesson. All right, let's give a round of applause for Tanya. Also, thank you, Spencer. I will say, well, I've never had to do this, but I would imagine, no, that's a lie. I was a recorder for DAB at one point, and it's not easy. I was a college student at that time, so you'd think I'd be used to it, but it was really difficult to be a recorder. Some people say it makes them pay attention more to the meetings. I thought it distracted me. So thank you, Spencer, for doing that. Thank you, Tanya, for taking it over. Let's get going. So I'm going to put up the poll, and I believe that the poll will give you an option for here. Actually, you know what? Let me just take off. I'm going to launch it, and you could just ignore the number 1 and number 3, which is for chair and recorder. But otherwise, we're all going to be voting on vice chair. Let me edit the poll real quick so I can put in the names. Oh gosh, give me just a moment here. Okay.
Where is the poll going to show up? I'm not good at that.
It's gonna show up on your screen, but actually it's giving some issues right now. So let's just do this. I'm gonna put up the poll. Choice 1, it's just gonna say choice 1, but that's gonna be Sabdi. Choice number 2 is gonna be Spencer. So we're all gonna vote on vice chair. Choice 1 is Sabdi. Choice 2 is Spencer. Please only choose one. Okay. I'm gonna launch it, and if I could see you all put your thumbs up to tell me that you see the poll. You can see the poll. Okay, thank you. And so this vote is for all regular members. So current alternate members, please abstain from the vote right now. But are people filling out the poll?
It says that hosts and panelists cannot vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't vote.
Yeah.
Can you say 1 is for who again?
We can't vote.
Sabdi, 1 is Sabdi, 2 is Spencer. Here,
Can't
I
click it.
did this earlier, so I don't know why it's not working. Give me a second here, y'all. I'm so sorry.
We could all put our heads down again and put our hands.
Paolo, do you want us to just text you?
We
Directly.
might have to go to that. We might have to go to that, but I do also just want to try this because it should work.
We could message you in the chat.
We can.
Private
One sec.
message.
If this doesn't work, then we'll default to that. Anonymously save, and it should be for all participants. Okay.
Is it possible to have 2 vice chairs, or is that not a thing?
We did this year.
What's that? No, we can't. In fact, it's been requested that I actually try to stick with the regular structures. So that didn't work. Okay. Are you able to answer on those now? Because I did say on there, allow for participants to, for
It
panelists.
says host, it says
No.
host and panelists cannot vote.
This is really
I see the
funny.
same thing.
Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. So go ahead and send me your message, or send me in the message, Sabdi or Spencer, and I'll start counting right now. Please private message. Oh geez, oh geez.
There you go.
Okay, has everyone sent me their votes? Okay, I would like to thank you both for your nominations. We're going to move forward with Sabdi being our vice chair for this next coming year. So thank you all. Congratulations.
That's not fair.
I do want to give a thank you also. I know I said this earlier, but it's in my mind now. Thank you, Spencer, for taking those minutes this year. So Joy, Sabdi, Tanya, we got a lot of work to do. I'm looking forward to it. I know we only have 4 minutes left, so I'm just going to move on to this next piece. Appreciations and goodbyes. Stephanie, is it okay if I just keep rolling with this? Because I wanted to talk about you real quick. I want to talk about all of you. I'm just gonna, well, first off, I'll just roll into it. Steph, I'm just gonna go by who I see on my screen, on the folks who are leaving with us today. But Stephanie, since we were just talking about you, yeah, it's been 4 years together. I feel like we've grown quite a bit together. I know I have with you, and I've learned so much from you. And you started basically when I started at the city. So our tenure at the city has been around the same time. One thing that I always appreciate is no matter what the meeting is, no matter what the interaction is, you always make space to ask intentionally, how are you? And somehow you also make it so that we end on time when you do that. So, and it's not just, oh, how are you? Okay, good. No, it's how are you? Hey, you said this last time, how is that going? And my heart always feels really full when we have those moments. And so I just want to say thank you. I'm going to miss you. You know, throughout the years, somehow you always bring a smile and laughter to the space, no matter how heavy the conversation is. And I'm really going to miss that moving forward. And there's two things that I will always forever walk away with. One, the term innate value. I find myself saying that a lot and internalizing that. And the other one is what business casual means, clothing wise. So I will never forget that. And thank you. There will be a chance for you all to say some stuff. Also, Brendan Banks, something I want to say, Brendan, you know, there's a lot of ins and outs, little hoops that go into who gets on what commission every single year. And well, this board and their bylaws only allow this many alternates. And this board's actually full. And since the time they applied, they actually dropped their application. So many things happened. Brendan actually wasn't slated to interview with HRAC, but it just so happened to be that where Brendan did interview, they were all full on the number of alternates they can have. But I happened to have another one. 2 people reached out to me and said, Brandon needs to be somewhere at the city. It just so happens to be that my board can't take an alternate right now. So, okay, let's check this out. I spoke to Brandon. I looked at the application. I was like, oh yes, absolutely. And I was it was really obvious why afterwards. And so, Brandon, thank you for being here. I'm a little bit bitter because it feels so short and already you're moving on, but I could move on too. But I hope that you stay at the city at some capacity. I would love to see you more. Mercy. You've given so much of yourself to this commission, and but what I mean by that is by way of sharing your own personal stories. And I'd say all of us are here because we felt some sort of call to action to be here because we've seen some sort of injustice. We've seen human rights maybe not upheld in some way. And so a lot of us, I think, have the privilege of being able to learn about something so that we can address it. But there's a difference between learning about something and living it. And then having the courage and the bravery to speak about that personal lived experience. And I won't forget that. And I could imagine that that's really taxing for you. And so I just want to say thank you so much for your willingness to do that. The other piece that I just really carry with me a lot is your unapologetic way that you talk about your babies, where you called your 2 boys your babies. You said, these are my babies. That really hit hard with me. It reminds me of the way that my single mama raised me growing up. And as a new dad, I look up to you a lot for that, Mercy. So thank you for leaving me with that.
Oh my God.
I will hold that forever. And
Oh my
it's
God.
really I look up to you, and I'm going to continue.
Oh my
I want
God.
to carry that and how I father my daughter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jared, one thing I appreciate you, Jared, is I think you're not always the first to speak on something, and sometimes you be a little more quiet, but when you speak, everybody listens. And there's a collaborative, that's right. And you shift us, you get us back on track in some way. So what that says is, you're consistent, you're punctual, people trust you. And it's kind of like that grounding sometimes, because it's really easy to get lost in the weeds, right? And you put us back on track. I'm sad you're leaving, because I think everybody needs that. On top of that, I remember when we were still meeting in person, I thought you had the coolest jackets. And then we get into COVID, and I'm going to steal this from Laurel, who said that you win COVID hair of the year.
Yep.
Jared cuts his own hair, and you have great COVID hair. How do you do that? So please do not be a stranger, Jared. I want to see you around, and thank you. Britt is not here, but Britt actually will not be continuing with the commission next year because she moved. So this is a recorded meeting. Britt, if you watch, I want you to know that when I was looking for a home, because of my family growing, and you were also looking for a home, so we sent each other homes. I selfishly sent Britt homes that were only in the city because I wanted Britt to stay. So Britt, if you're watching this, thank you. I'm a little bitter that's cut off so short, but I'm so excited for you. Dori, you retired from teaching, but I'm sorry, my friend, I'm afraid that you will always be a teacher, at least to me, because I'm always learning, I'm always growing with you. I learn, I grow with every interaction. There's something about your methods with connecting with other people's hearts and souls that it's so effective and infectious. Yet I don't know, I've tried to do it before, but I simply cannot. And I think it's really obvious. I mean, everyone, it seems that just about everyone trusts you. People love you. People look up to you and look to you to lead them, whether you want it or not. Somehow, I don't know what it is, but I feel healthier every time I talk to you. My heart feels a little lighter every time I talk to you. I'm told that we hold stress here in our neck and shoulders, and those feel lighter every time I talk to you. And I don't know what it is, but that's you, Dora, and I love that. I am sad you're leaving ATTRAC, but at the same time, I know that you have your hands in so many other places in the city, and we all know why. I mean, my colleagues have asked about you. Oh, she's leaving and she's retiring. Does that mean she wants to work here? Will she consult with us for this? The downtown equity strategy meeting. I mean, you're already rolling. You're not with ATTRAC anymore, fine. But if you do something with the city, we all win. So I'm excited to continue to grow with you, learn from you, and to continue working with you. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Sorry if I blabber. I know we're a little bit over time. I do also want to thank our other liaisons, Amy and Alan.
And we want to thank Paolo.
That's right, we do. We want to thank you, Paolo. It's been an
Thank you, Paolo.
extraordinary journey. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And thank you to the people that I've worked with through the years. I mean, it's really, you've been an extraordinary group to interact with. So thank you all for that. And thank you for those kind words, Paolo.
Yes, thank you.
Do you all have anything else you want to share with each other before we close?
I think you captured the sentiments very well in my mind. And so I think you said it better than I could have said how I feel. So I think you really captured it.
Yeah.
And special thanks to you too, Lisa, for your contributions this year. I mean, you've done such an exceptional job summarizing and condensing so that we could really codify our ideas, as well as, I mean, I have to say, as a qualitative researcher, I'm very impressed with your work.
Thank you.
That was a great job with the theming. So
Oh, good. I'm glad.
thank you all again, Captain Amy, Councilor Hasan. Thank you, especially for your contributions from the community. We deeply appreciate you. And this concludes our year. So thank you for the time. Thank you for the time today in this